Hello there, friends. Welcome back to Dear Vonna, where I address your questions and concerns about self-love and relationships, but more importantly, how to have a healthy relationship with yourself. I am your host and personal self-love development coach, Shavonna Nicole. If you are new here, thank you for joining me, and please consider subscribing as I'd love to have you as a regular. Now, in today's episode, we have a question from Tammy, and I'm so excited to share with you today. Let's get right to it. All right, friends, so let's get into this episode's question. Now, we have a question from Tammy who wrote in, Dear Vonna, I recently let my emotions get the best of me and got revenge on my boyfriend. He's cheated on me in the past, and I found out he had been cheating again recently. Not only did I go off on him, I gave him a taste of his own medicine. I started flirting with other men. I didn't sleep with anyone, but I led him to believe that I did, just so that he could feel the hurt that I feel. Well, he did hurt. He was actually pretty angry, and now I don't know if our relationship will last. He thinks I'm a cheater, and now I really regret how I handled the situation. How do I deal with my mistake and the effect it's having on our relationship? Wow, Tammy. Well, first I want to thank you for writing in. That was a really deep question and the situation that you're going through. So there's quite a few things that I can address in that. And, I think that there's a lot of different aspects to this question that we can tackle together. So I am going to give you like 5 steps that I think might be helpful in helping you deal with the regret of making the decision that you made. So what I would like for you all to do is maybe take out a pen and paper. I do like my steps. So take out a pen and paper so you guys can take notes if you like. And let's get to it. All right, so let's get right into step 1. Step 1 is to acknowledge your feelings and find a healthy way of letting it out. So you need to acknowledge not only how you feel about the mistake that you made and how you dealt with the cheating in the relationship, how you dealt with your boyfriend, but then also acknowledge your feelings about how the relationship is going and the things that were done to you in the relationship. It seems like there might be a pile up of feelings coming from different directions that you may need to acknowledge and let out, and not just letting it out any type of way, but in a healthy way. So a healthy way means that no one is getting hurt in the process, and including yourself, right? No one around you, and including yourself. So this is not the time to beat yourself up and call yourself names or any other negative self-talk, but this is the time to just say you feel disappointed, you felt disrespected, you felt sad, you felt angry, you felt frustrated, or whatever the case is, and express that in whatever way that is meaningful to you. So some people like to write, some people like to talk. You can write a letter, you can journal, you can just say it out loud, maybe you can record it, maybe you could talk to a pillow if that, and envision it was somebody else if that's helpful. Talking to someone you trust might be helpful. You can also maybe paint or, maybe do some type of physical activity while you're also just expressing and letting out how you feel. So it's important, though, to acknowledge how you feel in this situation, because maybe one of the reasons that you didn't react in a way that is normally yourself is because you had already a buildup of emotion, and so there was an explosion or maybe a rash decision that obviously you're not too happy with. But this step is vitally important for you not to hold on to it, but just acknowledge how you're feeling and then let that out so we can move on. And so, speaking of moving on, we're going to go right into step 2. Moving on to step 2. Step 2 is equally important, though, to step 1. And step 2 is to forgive, forgive, forgive. Forgive yourself because you are human. And remind yourself that you deserve forgiveness. Each decision that we make is a learning experience. It's an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, to learn more about the people that we are spending our lives with, to learn more about life in general. But you are not above making mistakes, and it is okay. It is okay. And so you need to definitely make a habit of forgiving yourself. You deserve forgiveness. So self-love is definitely about forgiveness. It's about grace. It's about acknowledging your imperfections and celebrating them. Like, it's okay. And you can focus on making yourself better in the future. But for right now, you made a mistake. You made a mistake. You did something that you maybe didn't want to do, or it didn't work out in your favor. But when we make decisions, most people are making the best decision that they can in that moment, in that time frame, with whatever is on their plates, and just working with whatever they've been dealt at the time. And so sometimes we think our decisions all the way through. Sometimes we don't think them all the way through. But either way, as long as you're still here, you can do better in the future. So, it's kind of hard to move forward in a healthy way if there's no forgiveness there and you're not allowing yourself to the grace to make mistakes and learn from them. So step 2, again, I want to say it again, is forgive, forgive, forgive. Forgive yourself. It is okay. You are allowed to make mistakes. And if you don't believe it, I'm going to give you permission right now. You are allowed to make mistakes. And so we are going to move on from here. We're going to let it go and move on to step 3. Step 3, everyone, is to decide who you want to be. So what I mean by this is decide the character that you want to have. Decide what things you value. Decide what characteristics in yourself that you value. Decide, if you want to be, a vengeful person, or if you want to be a person of integrity, or if you want to be a petty person. Whatever, you get to choose. You get to make that choice. You get to choose that. And this step is important because it helps you with the decision-making process. The decision-making process, when you make decisions, the goal is to align those decisions with who you are as a person so that you're making the best decision for you. So when you're coming up with all of your options and all of your choices, you want to choose the one that most closely aligns with the person that you are. And so, I want to point out here is where you can stay grounded and you don't lose yourself in a relationship. You're not being someone who you really don't want to be. You're not, just acting out of emotion or acting out of anger or any other emotion or any other circumstance that is different than how you want to behave. And so first, just decide who that person is so you can have something to look back on, have something to measure your decisions up with. A lot of times people do lose themselves in relationships, but it's because they haven't really solidified who they want to be. and not just being that person in the moment, or they may have said it, but then they don't respect that decision that they made, and they don't live up to it for whatever reason. You don't want people to be mad at you, or you don't want people to think that you're mean, or you have to be nice and you have to get along, whatever your reasoning is. But it's important that you make that decision and you don't allow other people to make that decision for you in regards to who you want to be and the type of person that you want to be. So step 3, again, is to decide. You get to decide. You always get to decide who you want to be, because it's going to help you with the next step, which is step 4, the decision-making process. But we're going to get into that in just a second. Okay, y'all, so we are back with step number 4. And step number 4 is to review the decision-making process, right? So we've forgiven ourselves. We've decided who we wanted to be. We've kind of let out the emotion. But this experience, at the end of the day, is a learning experience. And so we can review the decision-making process and figure out, where we went wrong in this process. Now, because I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with the decision-making process, I'm just going to briefly go over all the steps, right? So step 1 in the decision-making process is to just identify the decision, right? Like, what are you deciding? To do something, not to do it, go here, go there, work here, there, date this person, not, whatever, right? Identify what that decision is. Step 2, though, is to collect all the relevant information, right? And so part of that, too, is how does this fit into your life, and how does this mesh with who you are? Why are you even, what benefit is it of you? What are the pros, the cons, etc., etc.? Step 3 is to identify the alternatives. Are there any alternatives, right? Like, maybe sometimes it isn't just, a A or a B option. Maybe there's a C, D, and E option, right? So identify all the possible outcomes of the situation. And then step 4 is to weigh the evidence, get some supporting evidence that will support the different decisions that you make, and really just try to see it all the way through, right? So that is pretty much like seeing it play out all the way to the end. So for example, in your situation, maybe you didn't see it all the way through the end, and I get that you wanted him to feel the hurt and the pain of being cheated on and being disrespected, but then playing it out in the end and seeing it through, like, if he did feel that, what it could do to the relationship, what it could do to your reputation, how you might feel. So it's important in this step to weigh all the evidence and to just kind of envision, okay, what is the end goal? What might the possibilities be in the end, as much as you can see going forward as possible. And then step 5 is to make a choice. And this is where that deciding who you want to be comes into place, because you're going to choose the best decision for you. Sometimes people choose the best decision for their parents to make them happy, or their kids to make them happy, or to make their partner happy, or to the easiest route, or because you're fearful, you make that decision out of fear. Again, once you choose who you want to be, try to make that decision based upon the character that you want and the lifestyle that you want, and based on the values that are important to you. So choose the best decision for you, and not necessarily the best decision for everybody else. Step 6 is to actually act on it, right? Not just make the decision and then don't do anything about it, because some people get stuck there too. And then step 7 is to review. So it's perfectly acceptable, again, to make mistakes, because as a part of the decision-making process, you go back and you review and you reflect and see, did that work out in your favor? Did it work out how you wanted it to, etc., etc.? Now, what I do want to point out in this step is that, because of another part of your question, Tammy, was in regards to the effect that it's having on your relationship. And so you can very well be accountable for the part that you played in this, but you cannot accept accountability for the part that he's played in the relationship. He has a part as well. He has made mistakes as well. You have to decide if his mistakes as well is something that you want to continue to tolerate, especially if it's causing you hurt and pain. And so I would encourage you, though, to go back and really figure out, why, if you're this hurt from his decisions, what's keeping you there in the relationship to allow him to continue to do that. Again, honesty is always my motto. That's the only way you can really and truly love on yourself the way you should be loved, but there has to be some honesty there. So really think about how you came to the decision to keep going through this cycle, and then how you got to the point where you kind of just made a rash decision that wasn't necessarily reflective of the person that you wanted to be. And so I know a lot of times people do not go through all of these steps to make decisions. Sometimes we might not feel like we have that time frame. Maybe sometimes we don't have all the evidence. Maybe sometimes we feel like we don't have a choice. But I would like to emphasize that we always have a choice. And so we can always go through these steps and keep this in mind. And even when we don't do it, it's okay, right? Because we make mistakes. But then we can do that reflection piece and review what we would do differently going forward. So again, step 4 is to review this whole process and not necessarily take it for granted, because our decisions impact our lives. They influence our lives and impact us and the people around us. So we can give a little bit more attention in that area. But that's definitely step 4 in this process of how to deal with the decision that you kind of regret. So let's keep it moving. We're almost done. Step 5 coming right up. Okay, everyone. So we are on the last and final step, step 5. And I'm going to be honest with you all. I already kind of dug into it in step 4, because step 5 is to really reflect and decide what you do differently next time. So, it's the same as step 7 in the decision making process, in that, after you've made the decision, but you can go back and reflect and just pick out what you do differently next time and keep it moving from there. And so part of that process is to say, like, how did I feel? What was the outcome? How did it affect A, B, and C? In your case, how was it affecting the relationship? And is it driving you further apart or bringing you closer together? Like, what was your intent for that at the moment? And maybe it was just to feel good, and make that person feel bad. But that in itself is a toxic relationship. So I'm just be honest and throw that out there. But, maybe it might even be helpful to kind of journal about this decision so you can remember how you felt and not go there again. It's easy to say how we wouldn't do certain things again and find ourselves in the very same situation and having very, very similar results. And so, it's important to remind ourselves, like, no, we've taken that road before and it did not get us the results that we wanted. Let's stay away from there. So many people make some of the same decisions over and over again before they really learn their lesson. But I think that part of that reason is because after that decision is made, you haven't really taken the time to really dissect that decision-making process that we talked about, and then really reflect on the effects of that decision, like all of the negative things that happened or the positive things or whatever, and really comb through it and just see, like, is this something I'm really willing to do again? And we kind of don't do that. As time passes and another opportunity presents itself, we might go back in that same direction that we really don't want to go in. And I'm just being honest. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have done that. And so, just be honest about that. And in this reflection piece, be honest with yourself and just really, again, comb through to see how you felt in that situation and how everybody was affected, because that's the only way you learn and you grow from it, right? Again, as you make mistakes in life or as you navigate through life, you're going to make mistakes, and there will be things that are there for you to really learn from. Actually, each and every opportunity is for you to learn from, if not just to say, I liked it or I didn't like it. So now you can do more things that you like and stay away from more things that you don't like. That's at the very basis of it, but everything can be a learning experience. And so it's just important here to actually utilize that reflection piece that I think a lot of people miss. So again, I've already talked about it in step 4. I don't need to go into depth again, but I do want to emphasize reflection and deciding. You get to decide what you want to do differently next time. Okay, everyone. So this question today was a very loaded question. There were a lot of pieces to this puzzle about how to cope with and how to deal with regret or making a bad decision, so to speak. And just to sum it up, I really don't feel like there are bad decisions. There are decisions that help define who we are, that help us learn more about ourselves and about others around us. But I guess I really just don't vibe with a bad decision, and so, but that being said, there are ways for you to recover from that, to bounce back from that. And so just to quickly recap, step 1 is to acknowledge your feelings, let it out in a healthy way. Step 2 is to forgive yourself, right? You deserve forgiveness. Step 3, decide who you want to be. Step 4 is review the decision-making process and make your decisions based upon the things that you value. And then step 5 is reflect. Reflect and decide what you would do differently next time so that you can move forward. I hope that you all got something from this long process, but I think that is very valuable. Again, we make decisions every day. I probably can't even count the amount of decisions I make in a day. So I definitely know, like, when you make a decision that is rash or different than how you would want it to be, or different than how you would normally act, you can kind of turn your life upside down and affect the decisions thereafter. So the decision-making process is very vital to each and every one of us. And so hopefully this is a resource for you to refer to, and again, a tool to help you to love on yourself a little bit more and not to beat ourselves up when we make mistakes. So and that is all that I have for today's episode. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in today. It was such a pleasure for me to share with you. If you have gained anything or learned anything from today's episode, please subscribe. I'd love to have you join me regularly. And also, if you'd like to have your question answered on this show, Dear Vonna, email me with the information provided in the description box. And also, if you have any questions on what we've discussed today, you can also email me at the same address. So, until next time, friends, this is your host and personal self-love development coach, Shavonna Nicole, reminding you to please practice self-love as it is your superpower. Talk to everyone soon. Bye.